were involved in this video. Thank you for watching.
And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because I don't know about anybody else, but I'm pretty much sick and tired of everything. And I've had more than my fair stuff going on. I'm not saying that it's more than anybody else, just that it's enough for me. Thank you very kindly. Part of this is to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble, and you can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. That's Shujin. Hi, good to be back with you. At the moment, we have a truncated staff, but that's okay. From the left coast of the U.S., Io Cloud gets to join me for however long it's going to be. So, hi, hun.
Hi.
Yeah. This past week has just been a little not fun. I'm not going to go into details for myself, of course, but
when your heart decides it wants to do the Macarena instead of a nice slow tango, you kind of end up in the ER for a couple of hours.
Yeah, not fun.
No. And of course, I'm female, therefore I'm not actually having a heart attack.
Yeah, and of course I was 30-ish, and there's no reason for me to have gallstones, being that I'm male, not morbidly obese, not a drinker, not a smoker. But of course, there we were. But that's a whole other thing for later.
They keep on testing me for gallstones, and I don't have any.
And you're fortunate, maybe. Just to clarify, what Io has gone through, I have gone through, apparently for different reasons. What it all is our own thing. Don't worry about it. Just know that it's uncomfortable. And I think that's about as far as what we really need to take that. At least for right now, anyway.
Like I said, my heart was trying to do the Macarena instead of a nice tango.
Yeah. So, fun. So it's good to be back with everybody. Hope that you are all staying well for yourselves. If you'd like to be joining us as we record live over on YouTube, please feel free to do so because, well, it's nicer than just being all by our lonesome selves because that's not fun. And if you do join us live, you can be part of the live chat, which I do have on the correct side of my screen, which in this case is the right side, which, because of the way that the camera is flipped, means that I need to actually point over that side. So if you're part of the live chat, hi, which means Stephanie is there, and hi. And Io's well, yeah, you are there, aren't you? I guess I am too. Works out good.
I'm there. Where else would I be?
I'm not here.
True.
Which, depending on how things go, that may still end up being the case, but I guess we kind of wait and see how that plays out then.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, the only other thing that I'm gonna make mention to at the moment is that when I said that this week has been like all kinds of like weird, I had to go through some serious stress and felt like I kind of lost about 3 months of my life because of it. I'm not going to go into the details. I am, however, going to say that I have some thank yous to give to people in the week coming up. I think that's probably the only way that I can really describe that one. So we'll go with that. Anything that you wanted to go ahead and make mention to before I go ahead and get us actually rocking and rolling over here?
Not really can think of anything. That was good drugs yesterday at the ER. Yep, good drugs.
Well, they do have access to some of the best.
Yeah. And not like I like getting them, but when they're needed, they're needed.
Yep, there is that.
My arms, however, look like pincushions.
Well, yeah, I mean, so long as the needles are not still sticking out of them, that's better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Stephanie was also saying, uncomfortable like my broken hip? Yeah, I get it. Fortunately, no broken anything. At least not something that wasn't already supposed to be in one piece. So that's good. And yeah. So how about I get us rolling, and we'll just kind of roll it along from there. So with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. This time, tunnel. And the thing of it is, I was trying to figure out, do I want to describe tunnel vision, which is a very easy thing to do, which for some of us right now, tunnel vision might not be so bad. Kind of getting away from all the extraneous everything that is just blaring into our collective proverbial vision, it wouldn't be so bad. I mean, yeah, you can be accused of just, being myopic and completely ignoring everything else around you, but if it's what's really hurting your psyche overall, yeah, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. In this particular situation, however, I'm making specific reference to the whole running, well, I don't want to call it a running joke, but the old time joke. If you are trapped in a tunnel and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, be careful because it might be an oncoming train. Well, I am very much feeling like I am in a dark tunnel and have been for a long time, and I'm just trying to get through it. And it's tough. I mean, I understand it for so many different people, for so many different situations, that you could be going through similar things. We all do have our moments when it happens. And there's sometimes not much that we can really do, except to just go through it. I understand that there's some people for whom that's just too much. I get that. There are ways, some would say out, others might say to cope, but it all comes down to one way or another you're getting out. It's just a question of how. For some, it's going to be covered and feet first. For others, it's going to be at a long distance marathon run, striding away, smile on your face. Not me. Not by a long shot. For a lot of people, it's also going to be just like that. You're not going to be kicking and screaming across the finish line. You're not going to be coming out and smiling to the cameras. You're just going to suddenly find out that you're just past that threshold. And, I've talked on many an occasion that sometimes all you can do is just look down at your feet, proverbial speak. Look down at your feet. Shuffle forward. Just make sure that you're not falling off the edge. Point yourself in the right direction, the direction that you're pretty sure is the right direction, and just go. Doesn't have to be fast. You don't have to be setting any speed records. And you sure as hell don't have to be looking up the entire time to find out how much further is it that I have to go. Because that weighs you down. You look to see where you are. Make sure that you're still on the course, that you're not falling off the side. So long as you're still on the pavement, you're still good. If you're still able to keep going, even marginally, you're still going, and you haven't fallen. What I went through this week, it's the thing of myths and legends and stories that people tell years after the fact of that one customer. Because with everything that went bad, they still had it in them to say thank you for doing your job. Thank you for helping where you could. Thank you for being understanding, for going above and beyond the call of your professional job title and description. I was that guy. All I needed was just a little break, and it could have been so much easier on me. But I actually did have that light come through at the end of the tunnel that said, hey, next time you go through this, you've got somebody that can help you out just a little bit. And when I was asked, don't you think I would have done it for you if I'd known? I actually had to say no. No, I didn't. But I do now. So obviously there's a lot of vague booking that's involved in the story of what happened this week, and I understand that, you know, some people are going to be a little unhappy about that part. Just know full well that I did not realize what I had available to me, and I respect the people that weren't able to help me for various reasons. It is what it is. And like I said, I have some thank yous that I'm going to be giving. So now that we're done with all that, let's just go ahead and move it along. Deal with the horrible scopes, because why the hell not? So if you know what your astrological sign is, cool. Those of you that don't, you can make it up as you go along. I don't care how you go ahead and do it. But if you want a D12 to make it a little bit more fun that way, you can get in touch with the nice folks over there at Heart of the Game Fredonia. They'll be happy to go ahead and sell you a D12 and maybe even ship it to you. But minimally, look them up and give them a little hi. Heart of the Game Fredonia. Hail, hail, Fredonia, home of the Blue Devil. Tell them the horrible scopes and Shujin Tribble sent you. Now, in the process of listening to the stars and understanding what they have to say about the week ahead for everybody, we discovered something new. Calmness. For most of our lives, there's this low-level background static of worry, but this week, we got some tips on how you can find a few moments of bliss. And just add to the stress before this happens, 2 of you are getting something extra in your scope. Is it going to be you? Let's find out together. Aries, your star sign is a ram. Kinda. I mean, yeah, it's a ram, but it's a fish-tailed ram, which is not a driving joke. Anyway, taking inspiration from that, why not do something that you haven't done in years? Go to a petting zoo. There are usually livestock of various descriptions, like goats and sheep, but the best part are the babies, adorable little screaming fluffy balls of "Mama's gonna protect me." So this week, do petting zoos still even exist? We don't really know, but it'd be cool to find out, right? Worst case, you could always go visit a dog park. And I will tell people later what the joke in that all is later.
There's a joke?
Oh, yes. Yes, there is. It's a very adult joke.
Woof.
I'll tell you after.
Taurus, we're not sure if the stars are screwing with us. Because of course the stars like to screw with us. Meaning you or being solid serious. Take a look outside one of your windows. See where your vision takes you to the boundary of your property. Now find some robust flowering plants and bury them in a line out there. It's not all for you, but for the bees. We're making a grocery store for the bees to visit. So this week, the best part of the setup will be the smell. If your allergies aren't affected by the pollen, P-O-L-E-N, you'll wake up to the scent of flowers for a long time to come. P-L, yes.
I never got a warning. Oh well. Gemini, You're kind of the odd one out here, where most of the other signs want something traditionally calming, like wildlife sounds. You'd rather listen to lonely cars traveling down a highway. Imagine it, closing your eyes and hearing way off in the distance a car coming down the road. And once it passes, you hear the next one following, a full 20 seconds later. And then 3 coming from the opposite direction. Sounds dreamy, right? So this week, if you really want that experience, you'll need to have a camp out in the country. It will be so worth it, though.
The answer, Moonchild. We suggest you try making a new game and submit it to the companies that make. Submit it to companies to make your first $1 million. Ooh. But we had no idea it was going to be that stressful for you, or anyone else for that matter. Well, we're going to help you find your calming center in the cluster of chaos. So this week, don't let some other company dictate your game. It's yours after all. Make it open source. Open the rules to people to edit like a wiki page, and the game pieces as freely downloadable 3D printable files. You'll get all the praise with none of the hassle.
I mean, it's a cool idea. Leo, we know you love to be the center of attention, but it's time to break away from that cycle and look inwards. We're going to suggest that you find a way of isolating yourself from outside influences and achieve bliss in a natural way. So this week, take up running. Well, more appropriately, jogging, to start off with. If you do things right, the bliss will happen when you achieve runner's high. If you do it wrong, you'll experience the bliss of unconsciousness from dehydration. And pro tip, running in the rain does not absolve you from needing to drink water.
Sounds like you know from experience.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Virgo, there are certain universal properties that you mostly ignored in your schooling career. Some are even discovered and the ideas refined after you left formal schooling. So now we're sending you back to school in a very technical way. And before you say, well, at least it isn't rocket science. It totally is rocket science. Not only is gravity real, gravity is our role mistress, but orbital maneuvering is so counterintuitive, it'll make you wonder if reality is a video game. So this week, invest in an actual video game. The Kerbal Space Program! Woohoo! The first survivable landing on the Mun will bring you such joy and bliss you might even cry. Tell Scott Manley that Surgeon Triple sent you. And fly safe on the Kerbal skies.
Yeah, Scott, I got to interview Scott a long time ago. I think he kind of still remembers me. Nice guy. Libra, have you shared your stuffed animal collection with whomever you're dating yet? Just because you don't have a living pet to judge if they're good people or not, just seeing how they react to your collection will be all the confirmation you'll need on who they are as a person. So this week, how about an afternoon outing to a Build-A-Bear shop to see what's available? Not all the bears are bears, so you might be able to find something interesting, like some leftover My Little Ponies. Good luck with that, however, apparently, because they lost the licensing for that several moons ago, which is annoying. I've still got one. I've still got my Luna.
I've got a Luna too. Scorpio, the stars understand your penchant for smoking. The taste of the smoke, the coughing fits for the smoke, the way the world has a sepia color scheme from your contact lenses getting stained by the smoke. That's so true. Honestly, it's a little off-putting. So this week, just quit cold turkey or hot turkey. Any kind of turkey. But quit it. And quit smoking too. It's a dirty, nasty, money-sucking habit. Don't do it. unless you're smoking meat for the barbecue, then totally do it. If there isn't a book called The Zen of Smoking Meat, then you need to write it. I tell people that I stopped smoking on the day I was born.
Ooh. I wish I was that lucky.
Yeah, my mother was a chimney. But I stopped smoking on the day I was born.
And your father smelled of elderberries.
What father?
Sagittarius, even though they're uncomfortable for you, we're going to suggest you break out those wireless earbuds you have just lying around. They have built-in noise cancellation, which is perfect for what we'd suggest for you. Sitting in a grove of trees and listening to various forest ASMR tracks. The wind, the birds, maybe even a deer walking past your ears for you to imagine. So this week, just remember that deer hunting season hasn't started yet. Don't just randomly try to shoot something you think you heard. Heard a deer.
Duck season. Rabbit season. Duck season. Rabbit season. Ducks. Capricorn. Sooner or later, we have a fallback option we use in times like this. Sending you on a road trip with your car. This time, though, we need to specifically not tell you to do that, and it's for a reason other than predictability. Actually, so long as you're in the passenger seat, it still will work out for you, mostly. So this week, look up the phenomenon called highway hypnosis, and be terrified of how many times you could have just driven off the road and hardly realized it till the last minute.
Yeah. Aquarius, believe it or not, you are specifically getting a good scope this week because someone asked for it. So when you find out who it was, make sure you treat them especially well. So what's your really good one? It's simple. Nothing. No plan, no backup, no weapons worth a damn. Oh, and something else, you won't have anything to lose. So this week, go out on a clear night and look up at the sky. Marvel at the beauty that is a black velvet eternity sprinkled with diamonds smiling down at you. It costs nothing. Literally nothing. And the ROI is amazing. And there are some people that are going to actually understand the reference in the middle of that.
Pisces. And you get the other be nice to them scope. Yeah, you do. Let's take you on a journey through your head and memories. You have one of the best and worst ways to calm and be centered. Food! Comfort foods not only make your brain's nostalgia centers fire like a Gatling gun, but the calorie coma that follows gives you a great midday nap, like it or not. So this week, just remember that you need to work off all that extra food intake when all is said and done. So break out your bike and go for an early morning ride. Let's see if you can do a century. A century is 100 clicks.
Those are your horrible scopes for this week. Remember, if you like what you got, hopefully you are either Aquarius or Pisces, because it was intended to be nice to you. Though it was supposed to be nice for pretty much everybody this time, surprisingly. As always, if you'd like a nicer or naughtier one for yourself or someone else, you can bribe me by asking, because vanity is a thing. Or if you'd like to actually properly bribe me with, fungible funds, you can do that over the Coffee page. Coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. I'll have these posted online at the end of the week. Tumblr, Facebook, Coffee, Discord, Blue Sky. And yeah, this one was actually kind of fun to write. Like I said, there is a naughty joke up early on and all that. Am I going to explain it? No, I don't think that I will. Or at the very least, I'm not going to explain it on the show now.
Rule zero.
Kinda, yeah. But hey, it can happen later.
Rule 0. The DJ is a jerk.
Yep. Which is exactly how I said it for the Second Life birthday show, because that's the way I should. Because otherwise they will start to go, we're going to turn him off now.
So the DJ is a jerk. Which means that if he spots something about you, or if you say something, or if you're known for something, he will play a song dedicated to you. You just have to figure out what you did in order to deserve that.
It's a fun rule.
Yeah, I like the way I do it, but I'm not going to say it here because, yeah, not safe for work.
This is episode 533 on the docket, Your Honor. Myth wrapped in mythology. You know, it was a little while ago that I remember having heard from one of the only podcasts that I still listen to, which would be The Scathing Atheist, how they were talking about, or it might have been cognitive dissonance. They might have both done it because cross-pollination is a thing, where they mentioned about how if you wanted to, well, if you were in Vatican City and you were one of the dress-wearing men in the political arena over there, if you wanted to test if the Pope was actually dead, you were supposed to use a hammer, a specially crafted hammer, to tap on their head a couple times to prove that they're actually dead. Well, it would appear that this was just mythology and lore that had been floating around since at least the 1850s. The Encyclopaedia Britannica claimed it as fact. And to date, it has never been confirmed to be a real thing. So where did it come from? Don't know, really. Got started somewhere. But it's a thing. And truth be told, considering some of the weird things that Catholics are known for, it wouldn't at all surprise me if it really was a thing, because, you know, it's all about keeping up appearances and following along with whatever the rituals are, because why not? I mean, hell, the only reason that they know when Easter is going to be is because they have to do their special lunar calendar incantation things and figure it from there and do math, instead of just going, oh, yeah, you see this, the third Sunday of this month? Yeah, that's when it's going to be. It could be just as easy as that, but of course it couldn't be. So with that in mind, I think there are a couple of things that we can just kind of talk about briefly, where it's just, you know, we need to question things a little bit more often, that maybe we just can't take things for granted that they're accurate or truthful or, dare I say, real. Which is annoying because there are certain areas where we have accepted that it's supposed to be real, and it just hasn't been. So to that end, the one area where, you know, traditionally it has been expected, anticipated, and I don't want to say taken for granted, because it wasn't just a complete assumption based on very little of anything other than just flat trust. What's been otherwise described as the fourth estate. The press, the media, the news gathering informations, the modern in-the-moment historians, journalists, investigative reporters, those that would otherwise have been telling us, this is what's happening, and this is why. And over the last, I'm going to call it 40 years, there has been a decided shift from actually following the facts to following the feelings and the emotions as more factual than the facts. And it's heart-wrenching for me because even though I didn't grow up with Walter Cronkite as the voice who was just the man who, at the end of his newscasts, would say, and that's the way it was. And he was right. Because when he gave the news, he gave the facts because that's what was needed. And the emotions used to be part of a, well, here are the polls, here are the statistics of how people are feeling about these particular items that are true in the news. And now we've got to deal with feelings swaying the perception of what is real and correct and accurate anymore. It drives me up a wall. And trust me, this topic-wise, this is a hell of a lot. This is going to be a hell of a lot easier to deal with than the origination that I had, which was trying to figure out why we are so tired with all of the news that's been pummeling us for the last 3 months. So
Longer than that, actually, but
well,
you know.
Yeah, but you know.
And the worst part is that we're being gaslit continuously.
Yeah. So let me start off with something that I found absolutely hysterical because I was putting together different pieces of information in my head about this whole thing. The fact that the Encyclopaedia Britannica, which has been considered for decades, if not, a little bit more so than just decades, as like the paragon of printed human knowledge. Now, I mean, yeah, there are very likely other encyclopedias that are better, more complete, but none seem to have the PR that Britannica has. To find out that they had something like the Pope death hammer as fact, which might have been at the time, but nothing can be really verified at all anymore. And the apparently the information for the attribution for it was less than stellar, shall we say. The fact that there are still those people who are going to say that things like the Encyclopaedia Britannica are to be trusted more so than a shared framework like Wikipedia, for instance, I find absolutely hilarious. Because I remember when Wikipedia was starting off as a thing and everybody was just like, nah, you want an overview of some topic or other, fine. But after that, follow all of the citations at the bottom in the footnotes, follow them all, read them all, make sure that you know what you're talking about, because you're not going to get proper information from just Joe average public editing a web page. It's not going to happen. And yet, guess what?
Wikipedia is a good source of information on pretty much any topic.
Arguably, it's one of the best, if not the best, because it can literally be updated in real time for what's happening. And to prove that point, there was somebody who actually posted on social media how they were very proud to have been able to change a single term in a Wikipedia article in real time. It was the article about a certain Nixon era person who was in federal government for quite a while, and they proudly were the one that made the change of is to was for their life achievements. Now, if that's not a convoluted way of describing what I'm trying not to describe so I don't get hurt for using specific words, yeah, it's convoluted, but it hopefully gets the point across.
And I just heard an airplane fly over my head because I'm completely lost. Meow. It's okay. I'm allowed to be lost.
No, it's fine. There are two ways of writing about someone's accomplishments on Wikipedia. You can describe what it is that they are currently known for versus what they used to be known for.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody's got a problem trying to figure it out at this point, that's now a you problem and not a me problem. And I say that hoping very, very hard that you actually understand what I mean by that now.
Past tense versus present, yes.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason why I like Wikipedia. It's worth it to me.
I knew somebody that actually had the Encyclopaedia Britannica. I'm not sure if it was the junior edition for children or the adults edition, the main edition, but he would use it for reference up until 2010, and it was a 1950s edition.
Damn.
Or something like that, and I grabbed one of the volumes and looked at it, and I said, this is all out of date, but it's still valid. It's out of date. It's out of date.
Yeah. Over at the shop.
That's why when you do your bibliography, you're supposed to put in the date that the book was actually printed.
Yeah, the edition. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, over at the shop every once in a while, we get some books that are almost 175 years old in some cases. Yeah, we had a book that came through that was a medical book from the 1860s, something like that, and some of the medical terminology was not just old, but it was highly insensitive in many respects. I don't want to get deep into it other than to say that things like well, let's see. What was one of them? The whatever the thing is where people will eat things that are not food, like dirt, for instance.
Pika, whatever.
Yeah. It wasn't called that in the book in particular. It did describe the symptoms pretty accurately for what we would expect, because the person that was looking at it at the shop is also a medical student. But the explanations for the why it was happening: poor nutrition. Okay, there is an argument to be made for that, but I do believe that that's kind of fallen by the wayside. But there were other reasons that were suggested, which had things to do with being unhappy with their station in life because they were indentured. So there are certain things that are out of date and deserve to be left in the past. Thank you very kindly. Memory serves that particular tome found its way to the bottom of our compactor, so I wouldn't worry too much about that one. Don't worry. I've had a couple of books by Joel Olstein, for instance. Just suddenly they're just telekinetically thrown into a garbage bin. It's just the way it works.
At one point in time, I had an Oxford English dictionary, and it was so old that the binding was falling apart.
Yep, we get stuff like that all the time. Sure.
And it was one of those ones where they had actual leaves of pages, and sewn together type.
Yep.
I also at one point had a 1920s or so midwifery book from England.
Well, damn.
I don't know if I still have it. It might still be in my archive of what books I have left over. But, I might have gotten rid of it.
That's still wild. Holy shit. Yeah. If nothing else, I can definitely say that these old books are just pieces of art in the way that they've been put together too. Bundles and bundles and bundles of or I should say bundles of gathered bundles that are then glued together and then bound together. It's wild.
In order to make one of those types of books, you have to have the papers in the right orientation, depending on whether they're paper or vellum or whatever. They're folded in half and then unfolded, and you have to literally sew them together and then put them into a press type thing, sew that together, and then it's no wonder books from the medieval time were literally thousands of dollars.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Nowadays, we're just going to cut all the pages together, and we're going to glue them in, stick them in, and maybe the book will last 10 years.
It is quite the difference. But, it's when it's more about efficiency than it is about, taking an interest in what you do.
When it's more about efficiency than the art.
Yeah. So, back on track. Stuff that should be investigated at this point before it's just simply assumed to be correct or accurate or real. Well, as we were talking about over on the chat before we got started over here, Stephanie had put out an interesting way of describing it. By the way, a quick check is, did the felon say it? Then the opposite is true. I, of course, responded, more like, was he breathing, for me? For the old joke of, how do you know that a lawyer is lying? They're breathing. The only downside is the closest thing he has ever been to being a lawyer was when he walked through the police station when he was being fingerprinted or something like that. I don't. He's not. He's not. But yeah, at this point, anything coming from him, and I'm not going to say his mouth, because it could be from his fingertips, it could be from the end of a pen, although I don't believe that he can write worth a damn. Never mind read at anything approaching a 5th grade level, personally speaking. But no, I'm not gonna trust. Not even by a long shot. Which I have to admit is kind of a sad thing. The idea that I can't trust my government to tell the truth. And before anybody goes ahead and gives me shit about it, that, well, of course your government's not going to tell you the truth. No, that's a given. But I don't expect my government to lie about literally everything. There's stuff that's national security to keep people from knowing what we know. Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm on board with that. I get that. You got to misdirect everybody. You have to selectively choose which information to put out so that there isn't a complete riot. Okay. I'm on board with that. For it to be literally everything, no matter how mundane or insipid, nah, man, it's just never in my country's relatively short history has there ever been something like this where we literally have to say, yeah, I'm not going to believe you. It's just absolutely insane.
Or worse, believe him because he will do it. Or attempt to do it.
Yep. Lexa just showed up, Lexa Black over in the chat over there, and had said, or Sharpie. Lexa, mwah, just primo. You knew exactly what I was thinking of. Exactly. So thank you. The fact that you actually had shared a brain cell with me, I don't know which one of us should be more uncomfortable by that.
Brain cell?
One. I know I have one. I mean,
I don't think mine are working right now.
I mean, you got to have some that operate in order to spell check the other. So you've got more than me. So,
okay, fine.
Bonus. And Stephanie had also... I'm sorry, very quickly. Stephanie had also said, national security? Oh, that's on Signal. I mean... just shoot me now,
I have just enough brain power to dual task. I am crocheting up a storm.
Why does that not surprise me?
Why am I crocheting? Because crocheting cannot be duplicated by machine. Knitting can be duplicated by machine. Embroidery can be duplicated by machine. But there's too many axes of movement in order for crochet to be duplicated by machine.
Okay.
I might just be making stupid little squares, but every single one is handmade.
Damned impressive.
So what does my big guy do? He decides to buy me 2 more balls of the square making yarn today.
He's probably done it because that will encourage you to just sit and fidget with your hands, which means you're not up and walking around or doing anything else.
Yeah. Hey, Macarena.
It's the meta, and I respect the hustle. So
be careful, I'll send you another hat.
Yeah, well. So let's go ahead and hit that one for just a moment, because like I said, what Lexa was referencing was exactly what was going through my head. In the previous administration, the previous administration time, when it was still an administration and not a regime, shall we say, the forecast for the hurricane that was coming through at one point to the east coast of the United States, the petulance in office had decided that he was going to announce that the expectation for where it was going to be hit by the hurricane was inaccurate as related to the official hurricane expectations and plots from the Hurricane Weather Center here in the United States. So not to be outdone, he decided that he was going to add his own ideas to where the hurricane was going to impact and drew on the printouts in black Sharpie to show, yeah, this is what the officials, this is what the experts say, but I say it's going to do this. I believe the expression that the kids use these days is, so how'd that work out for you? Because I know what the answer is. Piss poor. Lee. Piss poor Lee. God, I forgot about that L-Y. I need to...
I remember that map.
Yes. I need to make reference to the Schoolhouse Rock L-Y again sometime. Yeah. Have to look that
We
one
should
up.
add that map to the show notes.
Yeah, we should. We should see about that. Actually, I don't even remember if I put the number for the show notes in the show notes channel. Come to think of it.
You're on your own.
Yeah, I'm going over there right now. I'm gonna set that up.
I'm using my tablet in order to talk to you right now because my computer's being a happy little computer. I remember that. I remember being in Canada. I remember seeing that. I remember our newscasters talking about it. And I remember all the face palming. All the face palms.
You know, I kind of wonder if the Sharpie company could have actually put out a statement that said that we didn't authorize our devices to be used in such a fashion to doctor government agency official government documents or something like that. I wonder how I wonder how that would have gone over as a PR thing. I think that would have actually been really funny. Of course, it would have also pissed off the whole fuck your feelings, folks, but I mean,
Al-Qaeda?
You said it, not me. But I mean, you could be saying the right thing. It's kind of hard for me to know.
Well, instead of calling them the Feeling Squad or whatever else you want to call them, Al-Qaeda.
Tell you what I'll call them. What I'll call them is an embarrassment.
That too.
So, the fact that we've got to, on our own, do fact-checking, holy hell. You know, there's only so much that we can do because we get stymied. And when I say we, I mean John Q. Public. Or Joan N.
The public.
Yeah, I'll use Joan N. Public. Sounds good.
We the people are so bored of the stupid regime.
Yeah.
Every day there is something new that is being gaslit from that house, and I've just stopped watching the news.
Yeah.
I can't turn on the TV because it's blah 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 blah.
Yeah, you
New
and me
executive
both.
order, blah 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 blah. People being deported, blah 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 blah. El Salvador, blah 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 blah. Canadians have been arrested at the border, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were probably trying to smuggle across Canada gooses. And that's all. Oh, did I tell you, by the way, that there's a what we think is a mated couple of Canada goose at the parking lot for work, and I have been befriending one of them. Did I tell you about this? Yeah. I mark my words. By the end of the summer, I intend to get a right proper selfie with it. And I have named it. I have named at least one of them because I don't know if they're like trading off time at a nest or something, because I only see one of them at a time. Although we do know that there are two. I have named the one that I interact with, whether it's the same one every time or whatever, Maltz. Maltz was the name of one of the Klingons from the Bird of Prey from Star Trek 3.
Ooh.
He was the one that was portrayed by, oh God, I forgot what the hell his name was. The guy who was on Night Court as Dan Fielding.
Oh, him.
Yes.
John Larroquette.
John Larroquette, that's right. And in interviews, he stated that he was afraid that he was going to blow his lines because he was afraid that I'm blanking on names now. Doc Brown, who was the Klingon captain on the ship. He was afraid that he was going to say, "Bring me some chocolate, Maltz," just to make him break. But
yeah.
But when I go and I go to feed Maltz, I intentionally say, "Maltz, joy chew." And somehow I do believe that people should understand and respect that for me to name a Canada Cobra chicken with a Klingon name and speak to it in Klingon, it is the only proper way to do it.
Klingon is better than Esperanto.
You know,
more people speak it.
You know, I said that to somebody, and one of the guys that works with me at the shop is just like, "I'd like to take umbrage with that. I feel like I should, but I don't know how." It's so good. Yeah, the saying to Maltz Jolly Chew, by the way, in Klingon is announcing to you're talking to Maltz, Jolly Chew is beam me up. Or activate the transporter, actually, is probably
Alexa
more accurate.
says it was Christopher Lloyd. She's right.
Correct. Thank you.
He's right.
Double checked anyway. And now for an obligatory Great Scott.
Alexa, stop.
What happened?
My Alexa went off.
Okay.
We have Siri, we have Alexa, we have Google, we have what used to be Cortana. Stuff will go off at random.
I don't, the only things that I like using voice activation for is when I come home and I tell my device that I am home, because it goes through this thing. It says, "Welcome home." It tells me a bad joke, and then it turns off Bluetooth and over-the-air data and leaves on the Wi-Fi. After that, I just like giving it like random questions just because it's like, let's see. What do you have to say about this? Yeah.
Well, we have that here, and normally she's quiet. Normally she doesn't do anything. However, if I do, "Okay, Google, Knox," the living room lights will turn off. "Okay, Google, Loomis," they'll turn back on.
Yeah, I remember when they activated a whole bunch of those spells, and somebody compiled a list of them. And it's just like, here's a list. Try them out for yourself. And it's like, some of this is actually really kind of fun, but I'll never remember them.
I actually ran one of my Googles through the D&D program. I was playing D&D with it. Kind of fun. That was a while ago. That was Canada ago.
No, that's fair. Oh. So wow, I actually popped in a search in Google, and the first item that came up for the list of the commands for your device is from a CNET article from 2016. Well, damn. I mean, okay. I'm not going to give the activation phrase because I don't want to do that to anybody, but that's actually really funny.
Oh, go ahead. Let's see if things work.
No, but I will add that to the show notes anyway because it's funny that is still out there and might still be relevant. Let me see. Where were some of the items? Open the name of whatever the app is, open a website, call people, text people, email people, create a calendar, set an alarm, set a timer. Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff I've used at some point. Oh.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff is good for people that need the accessibility.
Ooh. There are two on here that are very out of date now. Post to Twitter.
Yep.
Wait, it gets better. Post to Google Plus. I'm almost sad that I actually uninstalled it now because I'd love to just have it on. Ask about the weather, math calculations, how old is someone or something. Show me pictures of what does animals sound like. What does an instrument sound like usually works, by the way. There are some where it'll actually go, I don't have a sound for that.
My kids actually had the Google back in Canada answering to OK Boomer.
Okay.
So, yeah, I kind of looked at them.
Oh, no.
What?
There are other ones on here asking it, what does the fox say?
Beep, 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 beep.
Do a barrel roll. I mean, roll a die, flip a coin. Yeah, those are always great. There's some good ones. There's some fun ones here and there. But
Yeah,
that's
adaptive technology is good for the people that need to use it. Seniors, people that have disabilities, that's, the adaptive technology helps. But most people don't really need it. But it does help.
That's true. Stephanie was asking, can you rename Alexa just to mess others up?
I think you can. Hey, Alexa, can I rename you? So, yeah.
Couldn't hear what it said, but...
Yes, I'd have to use my Alexa app.
Ah.
But yes, I can do it.
Well, alrighty.
Alexa, stop.
That's really wild.
When she starts talking, she don't stop.
Well,
Yeah.
There are certain entities that just like to hear themselves talk.
Yeah, and stuff being edited online so that it's more in line with what that house wants said or done or extrapolated or whatever.
Yeah.
COVID.gov.
Oof. I don't know how I feel about that.
They did things to it, yes.
That's one of those things that for me should actually be like a subdomain inside of what HHS which is the Health and Human Services, or the CDC, Center for Disease Control.
Yeah, so right now, don't go to those sites. Go to sites that are owned by other governments, like the UK.
That hurts.
I know.
That hurts. I mean, the idea that we can't even trust the people who are expected to, I don't want to say entrusted with, because that are expected to be documenting what's happening so that historians have actually got contemporaneous explanations for what's going on. And we've said it before. I mean, that's part of the reason why there are groups like the Midas Touch and the Young Turks. I know. Who are out there, as the expression goes, doing God's work. I know. Just go with me on the expression for a couple seconds here. Who are, they're going out there and they're trying to do the right thing. They're collecting the information and they're saying, hey, here are the facts. This happened, then this happened. These are connected by this, and these events are connected by this, and these eventual items are all connecting all of these pieces by this common thread, which is connected to this group pulling the string for that thread.
Americans have gotten used to accepting the fact that the highest houses in the land, the Supreme Court, the Executive House, the Legislative House, and the President, were all at least trying to do what was right for the people.
Yeah.
Now, it's what's right for that one person.
Yeah, it's hard to know who's doing right, who's not. I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson was asked at one point about, is he worried about how one political group or other was going to be mucking around with education or spending for, scientific research. And he had a very interesting spin on it, which was the group in question. I'm not going to name names because it could go either way. The group in question would not do something that would ultimately lose them money down the road. So do I think, his words, do I think that education is going to completely get tanked? No, because then there's nobody to do the production, or there's nobody to come up with the new whiz bang so that more money can be made by selling whatever the new whiz bang is. And as cynical as that concept might be, I do believe that the more cynical part is, of course they would. Of course they would screw with how education works now. Because a less educated mass doesn't know what they're missing.
That's exactly why Ronald Reagan brought in student loans. Because an educated proletariat, educated people might not vote the way that they need them to vote. Republicans thrive on ill-educated masses.
I'm not sure I totally understand. I thought the purpose for student loans was for students to still get into higher education, but to take the onus onto themselves a bit more. Admittedly, it's become a huge hydra because of the insane amount of interest that's been put onto them, but I thought the purpose was to get more into education.
It's something that I spotted multiple times in the last 3 days, and it was always Reagan talking about student loans in order to make it harder for people to become better educated, because they take on 50, 60, 70, $100,000, $200,000 burden of debt in order to get the education, and that debt follows them for the rest of their life because they can never actually pay it off. So, and they take on that debt not because they're that good, but they're hoping that they will be that good as they're being educated. They're hoping that they can get the certificates and the diplomas and the awards and the grades and the assignments and the internships and the whatever in order to get the job that will pay off the loan. But if they can't get that, if they can't go through all that and actually get the job that will pay enough money to pay off the student loans, they're wage slaves. And they'll forever be paying off. Biden's idea of canceling student loans, that was a miracle for so many people. Yeah, people paid off their student loans, rah, rah, rah. They should have to pay off their student loans too. But these new generations, they can't pay that off. They will never be able to own a house. They'll never be able to do this. They'll never be able to do that. The boomer generation, they literally could go from high school into a career. The Gen Zs, not even with all the certificates, they have to keep on retraining and retraining and retraining.
My wife was lucky in a lot of respects. She did get her degree, and she did go into business, and parts of it really did end up helping her, which was great. I had 3 semesters, and is what it is.
Apparently, all of my IQ tests were coming up as social worker, therapist, stuff like that. But that was not what I wanted to do. I had passed the entrance exams for a broadcasting school, and my mother, bless her buried heart, she said, no, I'm not going to sign the student loans for you to go there.
Yeah.
And the student loan people would not give me money because I happened to be under her roof for a couple days. I was actually looking at moving out.
And yeah, broadcasting is not exactly the nicest of industries if you're on-air talent. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. And, well, right now I'm on sick leave from my hobby broadcasting.
Yeah, I get that. Stephanie had also mentioned, by the way, it is cost-effective to educate your population. It is.
Yeah, but they're not educating the population anymore.
And it's arguable that it has been done poorly in this country since its inception. Because it's been laid out that every state and every locality in every state pretty much has the ability of doing whatever it is that they want to do. Yes, every state's locality has to follow with whatever the state's syllabus overall is, but there's so much leeway that can end up happening from one to another. It's kind of surprising that it works out at all. I mean, shit, you talk about kids who get transferred from one school to another in the middle of the semester, and they're just like, oh, I already handled this kind of stuff a couple of weeks ago. I already know all this stuff. I don't know what you're talking about at this point with this because we haven't covered that yet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did that. I transferred from Ontario to BC, and I was 2 grades ahead, education-wise, than I was in BC from Ontario. And also the district, when I changed districts from one to the other, the second district was 2 years behind what the one district I was in. And this is French immersion. And I was looking at the teacher going, but I've already done all this work. I can bring my books from the other school.
Yeah, I can just hear it now. Just give me whatever the final is. Watch me ace it.
Yeah. I swear he purposely rated my marks lower. Anyway, one of the things about educating kids is a lot of kids come to school hungry. Not necessarily because the parents aren't feeding them, but because they can't. They're too busy. The kids are shuffled off to school so the parents can go to work in order to provide for the kids at least the evening meal of the day or whatever. So these kids go to school hungry or they don't have a lunch and the school lunch programs where the kids end up with 2 pieces of bread and cheese because they're behind on their fees for the school lunch. Oh, just feed the damn kids.
Yeah.
If all the kids are having pizza, feed them.
And there are school districts who are now getting flamed by some upper muckety mucks in some political group or other because they want to give all students breakfast and lunch. You're compelling human beings to be in your care for 8 hours a day effectively. Why shouldn't they be fed? It helps. It helps with the education. The education helps them down the line. And, oh, look, like I've been saying for however long it's been, it's an investment in the people who later are going to be the smart ones. Imagine that.
And if it's a school lunch program, you could have the high school restaurant division kids, because you know how some kids get separated into the computer section, the mechanic section, whatever section. The ones that have an aptitude for restaurant work or who are doing the life skills for home cooking and stuff, that's what one of the school districts did. They had those kids prepare all the lunches for all the kids that required lunches in all the other schools. There were high school kids that were doing this for the elementary schools and the middle schools. And kudos for that district for doing that up in Canada.
Yeah, I can see it myself now. That for one period a day, you don't have an actual sit down class. You have part of your class spends a day or maybe a period, 2, working in the kitchen, getting an actual hands-on experience of how, I don't want to say a company operates, but how a company actually operates.
How a restaurant operates, how welding operates.
Well,
my kid actually got forklift training and welding training and a couple other trainings because he was in this mechanical aptitude schooling at the school district. They had that, and he went in and he was doing great. But he prefers restaurant work. That's apparently what he's doing now.
And it's cool.
The irony is that his grandfather was a machinist and would have been really proud to know that his grandson was doing that work in school. And the kid got all these things for free. I actually told my kids, stay in school that extra year, get all the certificates that they'll give you for free before you go into the university and colleges. If they will do it for free here in high school, do it. So I know a couple of them got some extra certificates. One of them got a first aid certificate.
That's cool. That's cool. So the better educated kids are the ones who become the better educated or willing to be better educated adults later. There's a lot of lead time that has to happen with it. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. But I think that's part of the reason why some of us in my age bracket, or give or take, because reminding you, I am more than middle-aged at this point, I guess is probably effectively true. I expect I've got about 25-ish years still left in me. I mean, going by the numbers.
Lexa just said, plus the problem of food deserts, because there are no or few options for food and quality or variety of it nearby. So food at the school will always be beneficial. Might be the best meal they get. Might be the only meal they get.
Yeah, there's
where
that.
we live, technically this isn't a food desert, but I look at what stores are around us. Yeah, there's a Costco, there's a Walmart, there's a Target, and there's an Amazon Fresh, but there isn't a grocery store here. You have to travel a bit. And Amazon Fresh is the closest thing, but the price is 25 to 50% higher than going to a Safeway, a Rouse, an Albertsons, a Vons. And I won't even touch Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, because those places are just as expensive as Amazon Fresh and very niche. So technically where I am is a food desert. Yeah, there's food here. I can get food here. I can get bananas. I can get strawberries. I get this. I can get that. I can get my boba that I love. But the selection is limited. My husband likes this one type of rice. He loves it. It's like his main food. It's his comfort food. Used to be able to get it at the Walmart. Can't do it anymore. Can't get it at Target. Can't get it at the Amazon Fresh. So we can't get it at Costco. So I have to travel in order to find it. And I have to travel half hour or more. I have the ability to travel. The Latin community around here doesn't have that ability.
And
apparently there's a Latin grocery store, but I'm not sure how good it is, or really if it is that good, because it's smaller than the Amazon Fresh. Yeah. And the Amazon Fresh is the smallest store for groceries here.
And what I was going to say is, out where I live, which is technically rural, it is definitely the far side of suburb for my area. You know, there are a number of ways for me to get fresh produce that are not from a grocery store. There are a lot of people who they grow tomatoes, and they've got a lot of them, so they'll put a thing by the side of the road, and they'll have a couple of containers, and put a sign there that says, however much they want to sell it for, and they've got a can, and just drop a couple of bucks in there, take what you're going to take, and on the honor system, it works. So I've gotten tomatoes, I've gotten corn, zucchini. There's a bunch of stuff that's available just because. And if you live in an urban environment, that possibility just doesn't exist. It just doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
I need to share. You know, I'll see about sharing a picture of one of these stands sometime in the future. I'll see about adding that to like the Blue Sky, so that folks
When I
can
lived
see
in
that sometime.
Canada, that was all over the place.
Yeah.
Even the markets on the weekend were pretty good. Technically, there's a market here on Thursday, but it's not that good. It's more ritzy and pricey and more specialty stuff. There's 2 vendors for fresh fruits and vegetables, but I look at the fresh fruits and vegetables and I think, yeah, I can just buy most of these at Ralph's, Albertsons, Vons. And there's hand carts that go around, the corn guys, mostly Latin men with corn and mango juice and a couple other things, Mexican food. I love seeing those guys. If I have some money, I usually buy some corn. Corn. There's also all of the food trucks that are around here. The food trucks that get busted almost nightly. And if they get busted, they lose everything. They lose the truck, they lose the produce, they lose everything that they had to sell. All their equipment. They might be able to get it back, but probably not. Again, food desert. Yeah, these things exist. They're all around here. Yes, there's Rotten Ronnie's, there's a Burger King, there's Wendy's, there's Jack in the Box, there's Sonic, there's all those restaurants. There's other restaurants as well, Chinese food, but it's still food desert because who has the money to go out to a restaurant every single night, even with EBT cards and the places that accept the EBT cards? There's a law here in California that says that restaurants of certain types can accept the EBT cards because of the homeless population. It might be their only meal. It's just sad. And the food bank, I can't use the food bank because I can't guarantee that the food is stuff that I can eat. You know, that's just me. But other people, they use the food bank and they're basically placing their bet that the food that they get is stuff that not only that can they eat, it will last more than 24 hours. Because a lot of the stuff, especially the fresh food, the vegetables and the fruits, you're lucky if they last 24 hours.
Yeah. Which, as
and if you don't have the way to store them, they have to be eaten today.
Which, as an aside to folks, before we get back on this track, if you're looking to help out a food bank, please check with them what it is that they need. Don't just assume that you can bring something that is shelf stable, that's something that they could use, when maybe some actual money will go further for them. So just, if you want to look out to help out a group, please ask what it is that they could use.
$5 to a food bank is about $15 in food. I know that because I was trying to get volunteer hours at a food bank, and that was one of the things that they discussed as part of the orientation. It was actually the best food bank in the entirety of British Columbia because of where it was. The farmers would bring in tons of food daily, the stuff that they couldn't sell at the grocery stores. And you were allowed to go there weekly to get the fresh stuff and once a month to get your bags. And without that, I don't think I could have survived there.
Glad you did. So,
and the other thing that food banks need, not just formula, but feminine supplies.
So what do we do when it comes to trying to figure out who can we trust? Why should we even bother to trust? And maybe that's even the more important question. Myself, I think that there should be a group that you can trust. And part of that is an old romanticized version of what honor there should be with a group. I'm still of the naive ideal that the Blue Knights are supposed to be the ones keeping people safe. Unfortunately, my childhood naivety has butted heads against adult realities. And I cannot tell you how much that hurts.
I'm the niece of two cops, one of them who switched to become a nurse, and the other one who's probably retired by now, but was a staff sergeant and worked with schools, from what I understood. I don't trust cops. I act civil to them. I act nice and sweet and happy and, non-dangerous. But I know they could kill me. I know that if I'm in a crowd of darker colored skin than I am, they could kill my friends. They could kill the people that I'm around. Why? Just because they're darker colored.
But the idea had always been in my head as a kid. These were the people who were expected to be some of the best of the best. They were the ones to be trusted. They were the ones that, when everything was going bad, they were the last bastions of safety. And there's a good piece of me that still thinks that that's the way it's supposed to be, the way it should be.
It is the way it's supposed to be. They are supposed to be the last bastion of safety. They're supposed to be the people you call on when shit has hit the fan and you need help. They're supposed to be the people that will help you. But
you know what? I stop right there, because at this point, leaving it off as but ... says so much at this point, just without saying anything more.
my only piece of advice to people that are at the marches: bring tennis balls. Roll them across the blue line. Wolfies are trained to use the tennis balls as rewards. Tennis ball.
Just be careful that it's not perverted into well, I was hit by a ball, sir. Was it a ball that was rolling slowly along the ground with a fuzzy exterior? Yes, but I was still hit nonetheless. That's assault. Whatever.
Yeah, unfortunately. But it's that 2-second distraction might be just enough to get you and your buddies away from them.
So what groups are we going to trust for being able to understand what's real and what's not? Who can we trust to actually do the actual legwork of finding out what is and what isn't?
I have no clue.
And the weird part about it is, if I was going to rank, one of those ranking systems for who I would trust first and foremost for telling me what is real and accurate information, NASA.
Yep.
NASA and its associated groups for space endeavors. So,
But not SpaceX, not any of the other billionaire companies that are heading up to space. Just NASA. NASA has 50, 60 years of proven reliability with what they do. but even they censor their stuff.
Yep.
And back in your private server, I asked for a fact check on something that I spotted on TikTok. Any remaining residents in the United States are now officially stuck here. If you are a legal resident and you leave, you can't come back. If that, I was asking for a fact check. If that is true, then I hope that's a bunch of lawsuits come out of it. Hey, ACLU. And two, if it is real, I'm stuck here. I can't go back to Canada.
Well,
unless I'm told I have to go back to Canada.
Well, you could go back. You just wouldn't be able to turn back around anytime in the near future to re-enter.
And I've been telling all my friends that are up there in Canada, don't come down here. Don't come down here. It's not worth it.
There are a number of countries where their advisories for travel include the United States now.
Yep. Canada always has specific states for LGBTQ. You know, Florida and a couple others were, be careful if you go there if you're LGBTQ, because bad things can happen. But now the entirety of the United States is under travel advisory. And I believe I posted that a couple of shows ago, because I was getting from the embassy emails saying, yeah, be safe down there. It's now travel advisories. And I was just posting and posting and posting and posting.
Yeah.
So, Canada. Canada.ca. Canada.ca. I would trust that. I would trust Canada.com. I would trust CBC.ca.
Yep.
I would trust CTV.ca. I would trust GlobalTV.ca. I think that's what it is. Basically, the Canadian news networks, the UK news networks.
Yeah, I would have a tendency to believe the Beeb quite often. BBC, British Broadcasting. I have a tendency of believing in NPR, though I will admit I have not listened to much. Every once in a while, I will turn on NPR as on the way home, just because. And the timing means that if I'm gonna be hearing it, it's gonna be on the way for the financial news, which is what it is. But
Monday, I believe, is the election day in Canada. Monday or Tuesday? Monday. I have voted. I'm not going to say how I voted.
As you shouldn't.
But I did vote, and I sent in my ballot.
Well done. Good on you.
And I believe I've also posted that in Contentious as well on the private server. Because photographs of ballots are technically illegal. You're not supposed to photograph a ballot from a Canadian ballot. Filled out or not, you're not supposed to photograph it.
I know there are different regs in different states. I think, generally speaking, an official scan of a ballot is acceptable. A filled-in ballot photographed is not. Because otherwise, how else would you see what the ballot is supposed to look like? Because there are official ones that are supposed to, they have to go out there. And they are supposed to have, something that I can understand where, it would be a problem because you don't want somebody to bring in their own. What does that even mean? I don't even know. But
well, I wanted to show everybody that not only did I get my ballot, I was in the process of filling it out, process of returning it, and it was $80 to get it there in time. because I was sick in the hospital and wasn't able to fill it out at the hospital.
Good job.
And there's a couple ways you can fill out your ballot. You can spoil your ballot. You can put, because it was a absentee ballot, it was just a blank piece of paper and I had to write in the name. You can write in the name of the candidate you want for your district. Your district, your whatever. And the third way is to send it in blank. That's a protest.
You didn't write my name in, though, did you?
No. I will tell you off the air.
Nah, I don't. I don't need to know. I don't want to know. And it's probably better that I don't get elected. I mean, trying to come back and forth across the border would be a pain in the ass for me.
Well, I don't think you can actually be elected, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I mean, just
But
don't have anybody that would be voting for me enough anyway.
I've taken ballots in for hubby in order to make sure that he could vote. I've taken them into the polling stations. Everything's sealed up in an envelope and everything's sealed up. And I brought them in and handed them off to the elections officials here. So he made sure that I could vote.
Good.
It's something I believe in. Everybody should be allowed to vote.
I agree.
If they are a citizen of that city, country, whatever. And of course, out here in California, there's still movement to separate California from the rest of the United States. My question is, if California separates, does that mean that every single person who is currently living in California become immediate California citizens? Or are people that have permanent residency like me still stuck with permanent residency? You know, it's one of the questions I have.
Well, there's a lot of questions, not the least of which would be money.
And one of the reasons why they're doing that is because of FOTUS.
Yeah, doesn't at all surprise him. I am.
So who do I think is legitimate for news? Canadian news groups. For alternative news in Canada, the Tyee, Canada.com, the Tyee.ca. I will find the link in throw that into the show notes. They deal mostly with poverty issues, but they also talk about other stuff as well. At least they used to deal with mostly poverty issues. That's where I found them. I wonder if the Georgia Strait is still there. That's more Vancouver only. That's a newspaper. I don't trust the Province or the Sun. They're very leaning, and I don't remember which way they lean, but they've done some boneheaded articles over the years, and I just completely lost my trust.
Yeah, that's fair. I am... You know, Stephanie's pointed out something, and I'm going to hit that really quickly, saying lots of countries have considered dropping the US dollar as it is no longer a safe currency. Yeah, the financial markets that I've listened to have mentioned exactly that. The volatility is making people do things that are unexpected. Some domestic folks are not moving their investments. So the stock markets are keeping the dollar amounts, but the values have been dropping as opposed to flipping into bonds because government is not being seen as being quite so stable no more. So why bother? Countries are doing similar, but that's a whole other thing. And truth be told, I don't have the head for numbers like that anymore, like I used to, but the point is well made. I'm running really, really hard out of steam. So just want to do
only one.
Yeah, just want to do one other quick thing before we get out of here. And getting out of here on our timetable, mind you. Last week we had a technical problem where YouTube was just not receiving data from me. So I apologize about that one. If there was going to be one group that you wanted to make reference to where you knew full well that the headlines they were putting out were bogus, and that's the entirety of their shtick. If you had a name that you were going to give, why isn't it the Babylon Bee?
I've never heard of them.
Well, that hurts.
I was thinking the Beaverton, which is the Canadian version of the Onion. But honestly, right now, anything from the White House is either not real or messed up.
So I'll see about adding those because, yeah.
Stephanie says, I love President Nandi of Namibia.
You got it right. Namibia.
She has deported 500 U.S. citizens for overstaying visas. Ghana is considering doing the same. Uganda has told U.S. companies to leave the minerals in the ground.
Good.
And Ford in Ontario is threatening to press the button to turn off your electricity shoe. I know the electricity would be aimed right at you.
Yeah.
They're threatening. Honestly, no disrespect to you. Ford, do it. Do it. Turn it off. Turn it off.
Yeah, if memory serves, the vast majority of the power coming from Niagara Falls goes straight down the Hudson into New York City, more than anything else.
I'm not saying that because I don't want you to suffer. I'm saying that because I want somebody to realize that they done fucked up.
Yep. And the funny part about it is, isn't there a power production company on this side of the border as well? Should
I don't
be.
keep track.
I'm saying that from the standpoint of, well, shouldn't there be? Shouldn't both sides be able to be generating power for their own sides?
Probably.
Just a thing.
3 Mile Island, other places like that. The Dolly Parton monument down here in California, between here and San Diego. There apparently it's an old nuclear power plant, and it's got, well, domes. And it's jokingly referred to as the Dolly Parton Monument.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Isn't there this dam that's somewhere in the middle of the continent that was put together in the 1930s and 40s that's supposed to be powering most of the United States?
Yes, well, small problem with that.
It's falling apart.
Well, no, that well, I mean, there may be small problems with that. As I understood it, Hoover Dam is still, the concrete is still curing. But part of the problem has been the lack of water filling it because of the way that things have been shifting around for climate. Plus, well, the amount of power that's been needed and the lack of upkeep in infrastructure, because why should we pay for stuff if it's just for prophylactic reasons as opposed to emergency repair reasons? Because that's how it works over here. yeah, Babylon Bee, Beaverton, Onion News Network. They're great for exactly that reason, for kind of taking the edge off, and I think that's good for me to go ahead and put in there. I've got very little that's left in me beyond fumes at the moment. What have you got? What have you got left, real quick, before we get out?
Well, looks like The Handmaid's Tale is a guidebook instead of a lesson of what not to do. And that terrifies me. Sure, let's give mothers $500 or $5,000 to have babies. That's not what they need. They need medical. They need to know that their children will be able to have the medical too. They need to be able to support the children and raise them, and that takes more than $5,000. So, yeah. Nice incentive. You got it wrong.
Yeah.
You want women to have babies? Pay them. Yeah. Pay them a decent wage for what they're doing.
True that. For me, as the last item for everybody, everything else aside, we get very much how tiring this whole damn thing has been, and we're only 3 months in. I know I'm fudging the numbers just a little bit, but, just bear with me a second here. It's going to be tough. We acknowledged that even before. But it's okay to just kind of wall yourself off a little bit. Do what you need to do. Don't kill yourself with worry over every little thing. There are bits and pieces that you can do. You don't have to save the world. Because, as somebody put it once before, sometimes you just save one person for 15 minutes and you've suddenly just become their entire world. Just be kind. I think that's about all I got, because I think I'm pretty well done. Thank you, everybody, for being with us and being part of this. We hope that you found something worthwhile in our perspectives and you got something to think about for the week ahead. Io, thank you so much. I'm glad you're able to make it. You go have yourself a good rest you deserve.
Yeah, no more visits to the ER. Ugh.
That'd be nice. And over on the YouTube chat system, thank you very much, Stephanie. Mentioning, by the way, that $500,000 would be closer.
Per kid.
Yeah, that's nice. Except for the small problem of that we're now talking about women becoming voluntary chattel, and nobody wants that. I say that half tongue in cheek because I know full well there's always somebody out there whose kink is going to be exactly that. And you know what? More power to you. Maybe. I don't know. And Lexa, thank you. Glad to have you. And I appreciate it, guys. Telling me to kind of take care of myself. I appreciate that. For honor of Bridget, who isn't with us tonight. As far as to who should be getting a giant FU for the night, I'm going to put it to an entire category of people. Anyone who has been following what is blatantly illegal orders, who has been sworn to uphold and protect the Constitution and defending it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. You know it's an illegal order. You're still following it. You're wrong. Fuck all ya. I think it's worth to go with that. If you'd like to be in touch with us, of course, please feel free to take a swing over to the Discord server. Links are over in the show notes. We'd be more than happy to help you out if you need a voice or if you just want to rant and rail. We're there for you. We'll see what we can do. I will have the show notes updated shortly, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys again next week. I will give you a little bit more updated information for what's going to be happening for the month ahead as quickly as I can. But otherwise, you know what? Just pause for a second, because Stephanie said, F.U. Vance, who needs a 40-car cavalcade in Vatican City? There is a theory that is going around that says that the Pope died shortly after meeting with J.D. Vance.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a connection?
I don't know, but the Dalai Lama canceled his visit with J.D. Vance.
Is there a connection? There's a thing that says that correlation is not causation. We agree. But we also agree with CNC Music Factory, who once said, things that make you go, We'll hopefully see you next week, all things being equal.
He was a good Pope.
Well, he is now. So until the next time we're together, everyone, as always, I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well, my lady. It is rapidly almost 20 years later, and I am still in love. Well, Matane Fujin, I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we're together, everyone, as always, good night.